Derek Smith is the principal and CEO of Olashore International School in Nigeria. I'm sure he's enjoying much better weather than we are in London today. And I'd like to invite Derek to kick off.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy. Okay, as said, my name's Derek Smith, and I'm principal here at Olashore International School. That's in Osun State in Nigeria. It's southwest Nigeria. I've been working in West Africa for just over 20 years. And what I'm really talking about today is how we're just beginning, really, to use independent assessment to improve the learning, teaching, and parental engagement in school using some of the GL Education's online tools. Just to give you a little bit of background to the school, as I say, we're located in Nigeria. We're a full boarding school, and that means that we have limited contact with our parents, but it also means we have much more contact with our students. And so we have a lot more responsibility maybe for their development than could be said for day schools. We have around 500 students, and we're based in a rural environment. It's very beautiful, and as Andy says, the weather is very nice, although it's still the rainy season here, so we get quite a lot of rain. We're about 3 hours drive from the commercial capital of Nigeria, which is Lagos. Our students are primarily Nigerian, but most of their parents have studied abroad, maybe in the UK, the US, Canada. And a number of our students have actually returned to Nigeria after undertaking primary school education, maybe in the UK or the US. We offer a combined British-Nigerian curriculum. Students spend 6 years in school, because we're just a secondary school, and that's in line with the Nigerian education system, which has 6 years for secondary education. If I just give you a little bit of a background to the Nigerian education system, as I say, we have 6 years. It's split into two sections, the junior secondary school and the senior secondary school. The junior secondary school is made up of 3 years. So we have years 7, years 8, and years 9, and they are commonly called across Nigeria JS1, JS2, and JS3. Historically, at the school, students have taken 2 external exams at the end of year 9. The first one is the Basic Education Certificate Exam, or BECA. That's the national end of compulsory schooling exam, and is given to all children across Nigeria. It's mainly a multiple test exam, doesn't call for a great deal of writing, and as you will understand, for an exam that's given across the whole of Nigeria to all children, it may be quite difficult to give accurate assessment. We've also been using the checkpoint exam with Cambridge International Exams for a number of years, and that covers maths, English, and science. In the senior secondary school, again, there are 3 years, years 10, years 11, years 12. In Nigeria, these are known as SS1, SS2, and SS3. At the end of the year 12, again, our children sit for 2 external exams. The first is the West African Secondary School Certificate Exam, WASE. That's an exam that's sat across most of the ex-British colonies across West Africa, most of the English-speaking nations, so Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia. And we also sit the IGCSE, which is, I guess many of you know, the international version of the GCSE, and we again do that with Cambridge International Exams. What this system meant was that across the 6 years of education in the schools, we only really had 2 points where progress was independently assessed to give us benchmark indicators. And that's not to suggest we don't have internal assessment. In fact, if any of you have actually worked in Nigeria or know anything about Nigeria, formal assessment in Nigeria is extensive. We actually have internal examinations at the end of each term. I know other schools in Nigeria that actually do more examinations than that. Assessment's taken very seriously. Parents like numbers. But the truth is, internal assessments don't always allow you to benchmark progress independently. The exams are set internally, so to a large extent you don't always have a measure of how well you're progressing, maybe on an international scale. So around about 2 years ago, we began to review the situation. We'd reached the point where we have 100% of our students achieving A to C in their WASA exams, and in fact about 80% of the grades are either A's or B's. But the truth is we weren't still really clear on how much value we were adding to our students academically. We're a selective school, so if you take in the top students and then they come out with A's, the question is how much have you actually done? There was also an increasing interest from parents. As I say, many of our parents have studied abroad, have a lot of contacts in the UK, the US, and they were becoming very aware of the moves in the US, the UK for standardized assessment and for information on how their children were progressing. It's quite common for schools to give out A's all the time but not actually to measure them. We were actually finding a challenge that some of our parents, because we assess quite strongly, even in our internal assessments, we assess quite strongly and try to give very clear impression to parents of where their children are, which can perhaps be a little bit tough. And it was causing some confusion to parents if they came from schools where they were doing apparently very well at primary and then they were only maybe getting B's in our assessment. So it became important really to show accurately and independently the progress that we were making. And then the Board of Governors were obviously keen to see exactly where the school was, both nationally and internationally. We get some, they're not exactly league tables, but some independent organizations within Nigeria do some tables based on examination results, particularly the West African certificate examinations. And we usually come within the top 10 there. But the question really was, again, from the Board of Governors is how does that place us internationally and how are individual students progressing? So there was quite a lot of discussion as to how we could measure this. But perhaps the key driver around this was we reviewed our mission statement about 3 years ago and placed a great emphasis on the fact that we would be nurturing each child to their full potential. Now, as a boarding school, that includes a lot of things. Obviously, in addition to the academics, we have extensive sports, music, drama, and we do those very well. But we did feel that we needed some accurate benchmark of how we could independently demonstrate that each child was making the best progress they could academically through the school. So that was what led us to begin to think what we should be doing. What this meant in 2014 January, we decided to run a pilot program to look at how we might use some of the independent assessment tools and how they might work. I had previously used GL education tools in schools in the UK, so we decided that we would run the CAT4 test along with the progress in English and the progress in maths. Due to our location, as I say, we are three hours outside Lagos, which is a beautiful place to be, but we had, and to be honest, we still have limited internet in comparison to city centre schools. So because of the limited internet, we thought we would try the paper-based testing, which was available through GL Education at the time. So we did it with Year 7 and Year 10. That's because these were the first years in junior secondary and senior secondary. We wanted to see how it would work, see if we could implement it, and really, as these were starting on their 3-year journeys in the junior and senior sections of the school, we thought if we did carry on, at least it would give us a good benchmark to start with those year groups. So that was how we went. I have to be honest, there were challenges. The paper-based route created quite a lot of time delays. Delivery of papers was quite slow. It takes some time to get things delivered to us from the UK. And then we had to return the CAT4 test for marking in the UK. This slowed up the process, meant that things didn't run quite as smoothly as we had hoped. We also had some challenges in how we would distribute the results with parents. So it was it wasn't an easy first year. And in truth, the benefits were relatively limited in some areas. Whilst the results gave us information on where we were as a school, because we didn't have any historic data for the school, there wasn't any information that told us what we were really looking for, which was whether students were making good progress or not. Now, we'd been aware this was going to be the situation, but again, when you go to all the effort to put it together and then you realize you haven't achieved your primary goal, you worry a little bit. But what really gave us a lift was the parental response. When we distributed the results, and we actually gave the parents the full analysis from the CAT4, there was really a very, very positive response from parents. They were really pleased to get the detail that came in with the CAT4 response reports and to see what was going on. So maybe I'll just show you, give you an idea of what is part of the report. There's an individual report produced for each parent, and we gave them the full report. Almost the full report. There are some indicators for Key Stage 3, which we didn't give them because obviously we don't use the Key Stage 3 levels. So that was something that we didn't include in our reports. But we did give all of them the indicators for GCSE. Even the students in Year 7 received that. The report gives the parents access to all of their child's results, so all the data is there. But what we found that the parents really appreciated was the clear information in languages that they can understand. So as I said, they give indicators for GCSE. Now, all of our parents understand GCSE. They very much understand A's, B's, C's. So the fact that it gives this is very clear to them. They can understand it. It lists the best subjects first, which was useful for parents and began to give some ideas when they were thinking about option choices. Again, this is something I'll talk about later that came in maybe in our second year. And then it also gives the expected grades so they can see how their children are expected to do. They can see what progress they're making and give them some encouragement. So we really found that response was very good to the grades. But another aspect of the report which parents really liked was a prose summary, giving some sort of insight into learning styles, giving some insight into their child's strengths, areas needing support. I particularly like, if you look at the third bullet point, you can see it on your screen, I found it useful that it explained to parents to an extent some of the things that we do in school that parents sometimes don't understand. Nigerian parents are very focused on their children being very successful and their child doing well. And they struggle to understand if we place children in groups and maybe ask them to give support to another student. They think it would be better maybe if their child did more work. So as it says in the third bullet point for this girl, it was, if she's asked to help or mentor another student, encourage her to do so as her skills make her suitable for this and she has a lot to offer. So it kind of, as a school, gave us some support in some of the techniques that we use that are maybe not used within the traditional Nigerian education system and the experience maybe where some of our parents have gone through secondary school. Alongside that, you also see in the report, it details learning styles and gives them some idea into what the child might enjoy outside the academics, talking about, in this case, drama, science, and things like that. So again, this was very well received by parents and really encouraged us that we could think about carrying on with the program. So what we decided to do was that in January of this year, 2015, we decided to fully implement the program across the whole school from Year 7 to Year 11. We didn't use it with Year 12. Year 12 were preparing for their final exams, so we just left them out at that stage. And I think that's something we plan to use going forward. We don't plan to use it with the final year students. We did make some slight amendments. The main one being that we moved to computer-based testing rather than paper-based testing. A lot of the difficulties that we had been around using the paper-based testing. We'd done a lot of work on our internet service over the year, and we felt that we could get the speed necessary. And we're not high speed, so I mean, if you're based in a school that has relatively limited broadband, we have around about 10 meg broadband, which is more than enough for us to do it with our students. So it's not something that requires, I was recently in schools in South Africa, 50 or 100 meg of broadband in order to do it. It quite successfully worked with 10 meg. So as I say, we assessed all the students in years 7 to 11, and this allowed us to begin to make greater use of the data within the school. I'll share with you some of the ways we're using the data, but to be honest, I feel that we're only scratching the surface of what we can do. 2015 was our first year of doing this with the whole school. I think we've used quite a lot of the data, but I can see that over the next 2 or 3 years, as we continue to use the program, there'll be a lot more that we can do. If I just give you some idea of some of the things that we were doing. Firstly, we used the results of the Cat 4 with the expected grades to set targets for our IGCSE results. Students at the school sit these exams in October, November of year 12. That's so that we don't clash with the West African certificate exam, which takes place in April, May of year 12. As you can see from the slide, what we've done is we've set targets for both the overall cohort and then individually. What we did is we went through, because obviously the Cat 4 gives you an expected grade for all the subjects, not just the subjects that the children have been entered for. And we went through, did some analysis of the expected grades for the subjects that we were doing, and then compiled these to give us our expected grades based on that for the IGCSE. As it's the first year that we've been doing this, and as I say, the children do the exams in October, November. So those of you who maybe that do October, November will know that we're about to start these exams in 2 weeks. I can't tell you how accurate the predictions have been. What we'll plan to do is we plan to review the accuracy of the predictions when we get the results in January. My experience, I've used a similar system to this when working in Spain and using some data from UK SATs that we did at the time. And I found that IGCSEs tend to be a little bit more challenging than GCSEs. So sometimes it's necessary to do some tweaking of the expected grades to make sure you get accurate results for IGCSEs from UK-based systems that are based around GCSEs. But my experience is this is not very difficult. It's just something that you need to do consistently. And as I say, it's our expectation as we go over the next 2 or 3 years and continue to use the program that we are able to use the data and get more accurate expectations and predictions of what we're achieving. We also looked at expected grades data across the whole school. Now, this was quite an extensive use of the data. For each department, what we did is we looked at the results for each year group in their respective subjects, what their expected grades were, again, across the Cat 4. And this allowed us to give an idea of the expectations for the next 5 years. You can see on the slide, we have the departmental results from the science department, just looking at biology, chemistry, and physics. So I've structured it looking at the results actually show the expected grades from our year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, and year 11 cohort. And this gives us an idea, as I said, with year 11 as to what we are looking at in terms of results this year. But one of the ways that we plan to use this is actually it measures progress. As we keep track of this year on year, as you can see, the current grades, if I maybe take the biology A star to A, our year 11 expectation is 59% A star to A, with our year 10 only 47%, and then year 7, 8 and 9 much lower. There are a couple of reasons for this. One is the big jump between year 7, 8 and 9 and 10, 11 is not because we have a distinctly better or worse year 10 than year 9. It's because once you get to year 10, children have selected the subjects that they want to do, which tends to mean that the children that will do better in biology have chosen biology. So there's always a little bit of a jump there in optional subjects. The other thing that we see with this, or we hope to see with this year on year, is that we hope that as a school we are doing better than average for our students, that we are adding some value to our students. So I would expect that, for example, the year 10 cohort, where we have 47% who, based on their current level, are expected to get A stars or A's, I would expect to see that number increase by the time they're in year 11, which would suggest that we are adding more value in biology than the average school, that they're at an above average progression. So it gives us an option to see how we're progressing as a school, see how we're progressing departmentally. Another important role of the assessment tool is it allows us to benchmark the academic standard of our intake each year. We use the overall SAS from Cat 4 along with the average from the progress in English and progress in maths results for our year 7s to do this. Now we actually have 2 years of results for this, because as I said, in the pilot year we did it with year 7. That was the intake for 2013. We did the test in January 2014. So the intake that we took in 2013, we can see the overall mean SAS, the progress in English average and the progress in maths average. And then with 2014, which is our current year 7, or current year 8, just graduated into year 8, who came in 2014 and did the test in January 2015. As you can see, this shows us how strong or relatively strong a year group are coming in, which gives us an insight into the needs, the choices that we may need to make as this group or our group progresses through the school. Now, you can see we have 2 years results there. I'm wary of making too much of a judgment in comparing the 2013 and the 2014 scores, just because the test that we did for the 2013 intake was the paper-based test, while the test that we did with the 2014 was the computer-based test. And I'm not sure how much of an impact that will have. So this is something I think that we will see as we go through the years, because looking across the school from other indicators, I'm aware that our 2014 intake probably are slightly stronger than our 2013 intake, but I don't think that the differences that show up on that test are necessarily accurate. I think particularly the progress in English and the progress in maths was impacted by doing it on the paper and some of the challenges we had with the paper-based test in the first year. Okay, as I mentioned, one of the primary drivers for introducing the project was the ability to track progress across the school. This is both the progress of the school as a whole and also individual progress. Again, this is the first full year of the program, so data is still limited. For most of the cohorts, we only have this year's data. But for the pilot classes, we do have 2 years of data. So again, by looking at the SAS, the progress in math, the progress in English scores for the cohort year on year, we can see if we're making reasonable progress. Again, if you can see on the grid that we have, for example, we have on the left-hand side, going down the column, you have the year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11. That is their current year. And then going across the top you have year 7, year 8, 9, which is their score in that particular year. So if you look down to year 8, maybe for the overall SAS, you can see again, similar to when I was talking to the benchmarking, you had 95.5 on year 7, and they have progressed. They are now scoring 100, which suggests that we have made some progress. It suggests that we have done slightly above average in terms of how children are progressing year on year, which again is one of the things that's important for the senior management, important for the Board of Governors to see that there is some value added in what we're offering children. Children are not just progressing at the average rate. And for individuals, if you look on the right, you can see this is a report. As I said, we gave all the parents the CAP 4 report, the full CAP report, which you can download from the GL website after you've done the tests online. But we also prepared a letter. The reports for progress in maths, progress in English are quite complex and not necessarily something you would send out to parents as a whole. But the key numbers around the standard age score and then also their percentile rank are something that's useful for parents to take home. And again, what we plan with this, we have limited data at the moment, but what we plan with this is to send out each year to the parents the child's level for that year and also their levels for previous years. So hopefully the parents will see progress in their child, or for the children that have not made progress or not made progress as expected, then it'll identify an area of concern so that we can make sure that we get the right interventions. Not every child made progress. We did identify a small number of children, but we did identify a small number of children whose scores had actually gone down rather than up. And as I say, provides an opportunity for intervention, for discussion with the student, discussion with the parents when they come into school, so that we can check that progress. So the parent response was very good. They like the independent benchmarking. They like to have an idea that they know how their child is doing. That gives them more confidence. I wouldn't say that parents don't trust us as a school, but in my experience, parents are always a little bit wary if you're giving their child an A, that it really is an A, and what are they going to get at the final exam. So the independent benchmarking was very useful and encouraging for parents. One of the things that really impressed me was the use by year 9 parents and discussing the CAP 4 and the identification of the strengths, the student strengths, and the subjects that she did well in was very useful when they sat down to have their discussion about option choices. This was particularly true of students who are quite strong across the board. So maybe to give an indication of what way the child can go. And it's also quite useful, some of the students have also told me it's quite useful because it gives them some leverage with their parents. Nigerian parents have a tendency still to want their children to take professional careers. Many of them have an ambition of their children being doctors or lawyers, etc. And sometimes if they want to move and follow maybe social sciences courses, that's not well supported by the family. But having some independent assessment there that shows the student's strengths and particular areas that they will excel in has been useful for that discussion with parents, with students, and also as a school with parents, giving some support to our suggestions maybe in which direction children should follow for IGCSE. And then also the governors were very pleased that they're able to see how the school is progressing. So overall, the reaction was very good. Now, something that we did this year, following discussions with the staff at GL Education, and after we were very happy with what we did with the CAP 4, the progress in maths and the progress in English, we decided to run a trial of the third aspect of the assessments available. This is the pupil attitudes to school and self survey. Again, this was available online. It's a much shorter survey. It only takes around about 20 minutes, and it covers a wide range of topics and feelings about school, learners' self-regard, preparedness for learning. It was and remains an interesting thing for us. It produces very extensive data. We get data measures for all the areas of the PASS survey, and it identifies areas of strength, areas of weakness. As I say, we've only just begun to make use even of some aspects of this data, and we continue to look at how we can use it and develop it. One of the things, for example, that we noticed, you can see that Year 7 girls, highlighted in yellow, have a low score when it comes to response to the curriculum. This is something that we looked at, so we thought, well, how would we then tackle that? And we came up with one or two suggestions in how we might tackle this with our Year 7s. So, for example, we decided that maybe we need to make learning more relevant by connecting it to the work that the children had done before, maybe their work in their primary schools. Then also focusing more on the future usefulness of what they're learning. As I say, the PASS survey, if you do the PASS survey, gives you an awful lot of data. Now, as an academic, coming from a maths and IT background, when it came to the CAT 4, the progress in maths, the progress in English, it's reasonably easy to see how you have the data and come up with some ideas initially of how you're going to start using the data. The PASS gives you a much deeper insight into how the children feel about the school. For us, I think it's vital. As I say, I say we've scratched the surface of any of the tools. I think that's true of the academic tools, the CAT 4, the progress in maths and progress in English. I think it's even more true of the PASS survey. But for me, as I said earlier, we're a full boarding school. The children live with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and many of them are here for 13 weeks at a time, maybe not going home for midterm. It's very important that we get an insight and understanding as to how they feel about the school and how they are responding to the school. And I think that PASS will give us that as we progress and as we work further with what we're doing with it. So, maybe let me just summarize the benefits that we've seen through our use of the assessment tools. Perhaps I can split it into two sections. Firstly, in terms of planning, In terms of planning, we have a look really at the different ways that we can use planning. At the whole school level, for the senior management team, we're able to set more realistic targets and measure progress, both for external exams, such as our IGCSE, but also, and I think this is more important for me, year on year, right from Year 7, we can see the progress that each year group is making. This allows us to identify areas where intervention may be necessary. Whether that's a particular year group, whether we have a particular year group, as I say, we benchmark now when they come in, whether we have a particular year group that we need to focus extra support on, or whether we have a particular department through the use of the expected grades at IGCSE that's maybe not making the progress that we expect, so we can target our intervention and use our resources much more effectively. At a class level, the wide range of data available allows a teacher to gain an insight into their class and to structure their lesson delivery and schemes more appropriately. This includes the past data alongside the academic assessments. And as I said, I think as we use the past data even more, we'll be able to work with teachers to make sure that they're delivering lessons that are interesting and directed specifically at the groups, and identify which year groups or which groups of students within a class maybe are finding the lessons not as interesting as others. And then, of course, for individual students, they're able to use the data to set targets for themselves Obviously, as we share the CAT 4 results, the progress in English, the progress in maths results with the parents, we also share them with students. So it gives them an opportunity to set realistic targets for themselves in their learning, in their progress. I also see that there's an opportunity for the past data to have an impact here, but again, it's not an area that we've able to explore as deeply, and over the year, I think we'll get that even further. For parents and students, particularly as I mentioned, the CAT 4 data provides a basis to consider career options. Even from a early age, children can begin to have discussions with parents about which subjects they are stronger in, and hopefully this will lead to better choices at year 9, at the end of year 9, when children are looking at subjects for year 10, and fewer children finding themselves in the wrong subjects in year 10 and year 11. Throughout my career, I've always found that a challenge when students find themselves in year 10, year 11, and find themselves doing subjects that they're struggling with, that they're not going to achieve as good a grades as maybe if they'd chosen a different pathway. And then finally, on planning, the level of data we have allows the board to plan where interventions will be most effective, if we need to increase staff levels, if we need to invest in more training in certain areas so that we can raise the quality across the school. As I say, it gives the Board of Governors the opportunity also to benchmark and to monitor the progress that we're making. This means that success can be measured, and then the whole school, our school's commitment to year-on-year improvement has an independent benchmark. I report to my Board of Governors in October each year on the progress that we've made, and obviously this gives me an opportunity to say, well, this is an independent benchmark that says what progress we have actually made. And then finally, it gives an independent measure for parents. So it allows them to see the progress that their child has made, so that they can have confidence that the school is delivering what they need, what they want for their child, so that their child can go on and be successful up to IGCSE and then as they progress. So I hope I've been able to give some insight into how we're using independent assessment to improve learning, teaching and parental engagement here at Olashore International School. As I said, we're just at the start of this journey. I feel that even with the limited use we've made of the data so far, we are beginning to see an impact. But I know that each year, as we gather more data and we're able to see the trends, that as a school, things will begin to progress and we'll be able to use the program to increase the positive impact across the school. Thank you very much.